You and I are going to be in a story together. And by the time it's over, every one of you will have the knowledge and the ability to be the most important writer there is. And this is our story. A man wakes up, a poor man, in a small apartment, 30 years old. His wife died and his unborn child with her. And his heart is broken. It's been 9 months, but he can't shake it. It's like there's a piece of glass inside of his heart that cuts a little bit every time it beats. And some days, he wishes his heart would just stop and take the world and the dishwashing job and all the rest with it. And on those days, he thinks of the bullet. He's got one, .45 caliber. He keeps it in his pocket, and one is all it takes. But he has no gun. It's always something. 2 more weeks in that stinking kitchen, and he'll have enough money to go and get the old pistol beneath the glass at Market Street Pawn. So he gets dressed. He cuts through the alley, and the one-eyed cat who lives there follows him, mewling and hungry. It's always hungry. It's like a black hole. He threw this thing an entire chicken once, and it was back there the next day pleading starvation. And then it's 10 hours of bussing tables and washing dishes while he sweats so much that it soaks his clothes. He speaks only when it's necessary and not a syllable more. At the end of his shift, he gets a meal and he takes it home. He puts the bullet next to his alarm clock when he goes to bed. And the next day he wakes up, glass in his heart, bullet in his pocket, and he goes to wash dishes and sweat. And the next day he does the same, and the next, until one day he finds himself at Market Street Pawn, money in his hand, bullet in his pocket, eyes on the pistol under the glass. We're going to come back to that story of our friend and his bullet momentarily. But it's not just his story anymore. Because you heard it, because you're here, it's part of your story now. And because I'm here, because I told it to you, it's a part of mine. Each of our stories is a part of a story, of a family, of a house, of a town, of a country, of a continent, of a species, of a world, of a universe, maybe universes beyond everything. All of it is one big story. And every story, no matter how grand in scope or how intimate, functions the same way. Stories are formed by actions and the results of those actions. And in our case, as human beings, we can't take any action until we imagine it first. We imagine that thing that we might do. And maybe if we're thinking ahead, we imagine the consequences of it. And then we make a choice. We decide which course we're going to take. And then we take action. And voila! The thing we have imagined has become real. And we do it so much we don't even realize that we do it. You ate a bowl of cereal, you imagined it first. Scratched your nose, made a phone call, reached out to hold a hand. You imagined it first. Everything that has ever been created by humankind was first imagined. The same way our friend and his bullet imagined himself here, in this very moment. Money in his hand, looking down at the pistol beneath the glass at the pawn shop. And now he has another choice to make. Buy the gun or don't. To be or not. And he buys the gun. And he goes home. And he walks in the door and he swears he can hear his dead wife's voice. And he takes the bullet from his pocket. And he puts it in the gun. And he chambers around and he puts the pistol to the side of his head and closes his eye. Bang! Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's at that counter at the pawn shop, and out of the corner of his eye, he sees one of those kitty cat jungle gyms. You know, the kind with the towers and the pedestals and the tunnels, and every surface is scratchable. It's a little kitty cat dream house. And before he knows it, he's bought the thing. The pistol's still beneath the glass, and he's got a cat hotel taking up half his apartment and no cat. But he knows where he can get one. And he brings that one-eyed cat home. And there's something in this cat that brings out the best in him. And he breaks that depression. He starts making friends at work. He meets a woman. and she loves him, but she hates cats. And on his story goes. And what does this have to do with all of you? What does this have to do with your personal story? Well, there's two major differences between the story of our friend and your personal story. The first, unlike fiction, you get no rewrites. Every moment of your story that passes is permanent and irreversible, logged forever in the pages of time. Nothing that is done can be undone. And so we have to look ahead while we write our stories. As we stand in the now, the permanent, the eternal now. We can't go into the future. We can't go into the past. We're just here now. So he's got one up on us there. But here's where you've all got something that he doesn't have. I'm writing his story, but you are writing yours. He's subject to my whim. I want him to live, he lives. I want him to die, he dies. I imagine him. I make his choices. He has no choices, but you make every choice. Every moment is yours to do with what you will. You are the authors of your own stories, and this is not a metaphor. It's the truth. But we've been led somehow, all of us, to believe that this isn't the case. And maybe we just got so caught up in the stories of others that we forgot about our own. That we forgot that all those people who we admire, those people who inspire us, those people who have triumphed in one way or another, are simply those who looked at themselves truly and saw that the pen was in their hand. That they got to decide what to put down in the pages of their life, that the pen had always been in their hand. You've all been authoring your own stories, whether you realize it or not. And most of the things that you don't like in your life are there because you put them there. And most of the things that you love in your life are there because you put them there. And when you realize this, when you admit it to yourself, you'll see that pen in your hand. And that doesn't mean everything's suddenly going to become easy. There can be no triumph without struggle. That's how stories work, especially ours. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, dreaming of being a writer. I was probably 6 or 7 years old when I decided that's what I want to do. And I was 27 years old before I got my first paid writing assignment. And in the interim, there were some lean years. There were times when I lived in my car. There were times when I was so hungry that I stole food to eat. The struggle is a part of it, but it makes the triumph so much sweeter. Before we came into this story together, you could have claimed ignorance or powerlessness over all the things that are or are not how you want them to be in your life, but not anymore. Because now you know. The pen is in your hand. Your story is your own, but you have to imagine it first. That's how it starts, always. And then you make a choice. And you bring the pen down to the page, and word by word, you take hold of the greatest gift that you were ever given. The gift of imagination is story. And the gift of story is your freedom. Thank you.